The first battle had determined the rhythm for both teams. Whatever happened previously did not matter anymore. The sick killer instincts were out. Needless to say, Arbiter had wanted this rhythm. It was a surprise that someone else had the audacity to do this in front of them. Saruman Snake, the greatest kings of the Elite Academy X, always eyeing to be the champions. Achilles has indeed lived up to his reputation as the brain of Saruman Snake. But this battle must have really angered the soulless battle team, said Sigiali. Even she and Jondi Lilac had become more solemn. This was no longer a competition, but rather a real battle. Arbiter would take every single battle very seriously because warrior soul was the foundation upon which the country was built on. As for Saruman Snake, what were they holding on to? This was the first time in an international competition that someone had the audacity to challenge Arbiter's rhythm. Once the life and death battle began, the arbiters would no longer have any regard for any rules and regulations. It was obvious from the faces of the arbiters that they had nothing but murderous intent. Captain Lilac, what are your thoughts about the outcome of the first battle? Asked Sigiali. She would not dare to shoot her mouth off in such areas, as they involved many different details. If she got the facts wrong, she would become a laughing stock. However, with Jondi Lilac's capabilities, he would definitely provide clear and proper analysis. When teams analyze Saruman Snake, they tend to refer to them as Zerg. If Wang Zheng is the mother Zerg, then Achilles would be the overmind. His combat abilities may not be the best, but he likes devising detailed strategies. Menlo had at least 3 chances to crush his opponent but did not seize the opportunities on all the occasions. You can't say that it was his negligence. Achilles purposely created that effect, said Jondi Lilac. However, the soulless battle team wouldn't make the same mistake twice, said Sigiali. Jondi Lilac bit his fingers. His expression was a little weird. Captain Lilac, did you notice something? Sigiali felt something amiss too. It was reasonable to assume that under such circumstances, Jondi Lilac wouldn't have lost his composure. It was as if he was lost in some incredible thought. What? Saruman Snake has sent out their next contestant first, it's Zhang Shan. Sigiali was stunned. Wasting an offensive opportunity. At the same time, they even sent on a non-Earth rank warrior. What did Saruman Snake have up their sleeves? The entire arena had fallen into intense discussions. Suppressed by the earlier bloody battle, these discussions were filled with disbelief and questions. Jondi Lilac's eyes burned with a sudden realization. If I'm not wrong, Wang Zheng is trying to win this by thrashing the soulless battle team 3-0. This was no longer audacious to the extreme. It was simply going against heaven's will. No other team would even dare entertain such thoughts. Yet Saruman Snake dared to have such thoughts. This is impossible, right? Sigiali was stunned. If they were to fight it out at a team battle, Saruman Snake would simply be no match for Arbiter. It is obvious judging from the first battle. Even though Achilles has won, he has also lost his ability to fight. The gap in the strength of the reserves is even greater. I seriously doubt that Saruman Snake has anyone in the reserves. So, they need to make this a bloody fight. The first battle was the signal for this intention, said Jondi Lilac with conviction. But why are they sending Zhang Shan? At the very least, it should be Snow Lee. It's impossible for a non-Earth rank to win against an Earth rank, said Sigiali. Jondi Lilac smiled slightly. There are a lot of different people in this world. Zhang Shan belongs to the kind that is weird. He lacks strength and his foundation isn't strong either. But people like him have a unique spirituality. They are able to create miracles at crucial moments. From the information on his past battles, you can tell that his battling style is very unrestrained. That's right. I've checked his information. Every victory seems to be due to luck. Although Snow Lee appears to be a little more stable, she's still at a disadvantage when facing Arbiter. It might be a better idea to let Zhang Shan have a go at it. It seems that you are very optimistic about him, said Sigiali. Jondi Lilac shook his head. No, I'm not. The division of the Earth rank level is a very accurate dividing line. This is especially so since he is facing an Arbiter warrior. Maybe a 1% chance. Just maybe. I'm just more impressed by Saruman Snake's courage. They are really fighting with their lives. That was correct. Zhongshan had drawn his sword. Everyone would repeatedly say that they were not afraid to die. But were they still fearless when it came to an actual battlefield? This place had become a real battlefield now. As the winning side, he could have started later. But instead, he had chosen to come out first, and without hesitation, chose the Wind God. He then waited for his opponent. This was both damn cool and stupid. The vice captain of the soulless battle team had died in the first battle. One could easily imagine the arbiter's arrogance and murderous instinct in their hearts, yet he was still so arrogant. The expressions of the entire soulless battle team were atrocious. Arbiter, reared by the entire world, was being looked down upon by them. Had this world been turned upside down? Aragorn's expression was icy cold. Montero, kill him. Montero stood up and gave a salute. They were, after all, in Aslan, outside their country. The arbiters had been controlling their killer instincts. Yet someone had dared to pull the tiger's tooth. This arbiter team would no longer be under control. Kill, 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 kill. Montero entered. His mech was Hunting Demon's mech. Arbiter's super mech. It was known to be difficult to operate. It was an all-terrain mech, and it had transformation capabilities. It was called the Land Overlord mech. After the birth of this mech, it was shelved due to the difficulties of operating it and the load. However, some super warriors still like to use it to train their control and reaction skills. This was also the first time the Hunting Demon's mech had appeared in a major competition. The Wind God mech versus the Hunting Demon's mech. The data shows that Montero is an Earth Rank 1 warrior. He is known to be a multicontroller. He is the best controller in the soulless battle team, said Sigiali. He has a trait type ability. I've used the Hunting Demon's mech before. Unless you are a person who can multitask, it is not easy to use. This mech is best suited for a schizophrenic. Of course, this is just a figure of speech. Multicontrol. Nanoseconds control. If used appropriately, this mech is the best of its level. Zhongshan's action of drawing his sword has provoked the arbiters. Otherwise, given the difference in strength, the arbiters would not normally have chosen this mech. The Hunting Demon's mech was a size bigger than the average mech, but it was not a tank. When Arbiter designed it, they had wanted it to be best of all levels. In reality, in terms of performance, it had the capabilities to achieve this. However, not many people could control it. The two mecha appeared on the tattered arena. A murderous feel permeated the air. The battle had come to a fatal confrontation. Now the second battle between Saruman's Snake Battle Team and the Soulless Battle Team will begin. Let us dedicate our applause for the two contestants in the battlefield. Sigiali's voice became very excited. Regardless of what was to come, the applause should be dedicated to the two warriors in the battlefield. There was no need to think much. Sigiali's voice had awakened everyone. A warrior, born to fight. The arena was filled with the loudest cheers since the start of the competition. It was way louder than when the home team was competing. This was because they had witnessed a true battle. This was no longer just a competition. The external excitement and the calmness and light-spiritedness that Zhongshan felt internally presented a clear contrast. The bigger the competition, the more excited Zhongshan felt. When the excitement reached its peak, he would reach an excellent state. Simply put, Zhongshan was a big match player. He would perform beyond his usual capabilities during crucial moments. However, the problem laid in the great differences in strengths. Even if Zhongshan was an Earth rank warrior, he might still not be able to handle Montero. Moreover, there was a difference between their levels. The moves were obvious. Zhongshan had one killer move, and that was the Void Hack. This move was indeed amazing. Coupled with the Wind God's movement, he could still stand a slim chance, but only one chance. Furthermore, his opponent had to give him that chance. To be honest, the so-called teleportation could only be used 4 times. Zhongshan had the teleportation box, and Montero had something similar to offset it. Agile little tricks may not be useless, but using such tricks on an Earth rank warrior would result in a horrible death. On the other hand, anyone who would dare to use the Hunting Demon's mech was undoubtedly the master of techniques. The tattered arena was undoubtedly an advantage for Zhongshan. The Wind God's advantageous movements would be reflected. This was a clear tactical move. A cold smile appeared at the corner of Montero's mouth. You will regret living till today. Zhang Shan smiled. You won't live to see it. Want to bicker? I am your ancestor. The battle began. Possessing 8 claws, the hunting demon's mech's beast form was spider-like. It truly lived up to its reputation as an all-terrain overlord mech. Apparently, any warrior who controlled such a mech had to imagine himself as a real spider. Bionic mimicry and understanding the behavior of spiders. It was totally crazy. Growling, growling, shing. The hunting demon's mech pounced wildly talented towards the wind god. This speed, it was totally crazy. The tattered arena did not affect the all-terrain hunting demon's mech in the least. The hunting demons was charging towards the wind god as if the ground was totally flat. Zhang Shan was being a rogue too. He had no intention of fighting head-on with such a lunatic. He knew that the arbiters were very anxious, and would love to crush him to death. At times like this, he needed to be composed and let his opponent become more anxious. Only then could he stand a chance. The magnetic source shot continuously. Zhang Shan was now highly proficient in his wind god. However, Zhang Shan was shocked right at the next moment. This monster was catching up with him. The 8 big legs looked like they were flying on the ground. Zhang Shan had no choice but to increase his speed. Speed was his forte too. The members of the soulless battle team revealed icy smiles. Surely, even the arbiters had to admit that if Zhang Shan, who possessed teleportation and magnetic source, had the intention to run, it would be really disgusting. However, if Zhang Shan had a nemesis at the entire SIG, it would have to be Montero. Bang, 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 bubble bubble. Lasers roared. Boom. This was rarely seen in individual battles in the SIG. However, for a beast-type mech, moving and shooting was really easy. The hunting demon's mech was chasing and shooting at the same time. Matrix shots. Even in bumpy terrain, the hunting demon's mech was able to maintain its stability. Instantly, a matrix of shots surrounded the wind god. Zhang Shan shivered in cold sweat. Luckily, he was prepared for this. The magnetic source connected instantly, changing another direction. This was indeed being utterly devoted to the cause but being prepared for 2 possible alternatives. Having evaded the unceasing matrix shots, Montero's eyes looked even colder. He just could not comprehend how such minions would dare to challenge the great Arbiter Empire. This was an honor that should not be desecrated. He wanted the damn idiot to suffer a living hell. The hunting demon's mech moved sideways. Bang, 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 bang. Lasers roared. Double matrix shots. Beast-type mecha, especially the 8-legged hunting demons, could easily make such difficult shots. This was impossible for a man-type mech to achieve. The only difficulty was to control the accuracy. This was a weakness of the beast-type mecha. However, Montero's matrix shots were extremely accurate. Even if he was placed among the snipers, he would still be an ace. As soon as she saw this move, Snowly knew that the situation was bad. To have the ability to control the beast-type mech with such accuracy meant that Montero's sniper ability was at expert level. Honestly, even better than her. Having just evading a round of attacks, it was followed by another round of even fiercer attacks. Zhang Shan was unable to dodge. The magnetic source was not teleportation. Zhang Shan clenched his teeth and opened his energy shield. Bang, boom, boom, bang, bang. The energy shield shook. He was hit. He did not manage to dodge after all. Zhang Shan continued to dodge using his power. Teleportation couldn't be used mindlessly. Every usage was to save his life. However, the crucial matter was that he was here to win, not to lose. This was the toughest. Bang, 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 bubble bubble. The wind god had finally met its match. This beast-type mech's movements were like those of a live spider. Apart from being all-terrain, this beast-type mech's movements were even more disgusting. A normal pilot could not control this because of the mobility habits of humans. A normal beast-type mecha had at most 4 legs, so it was easier to imitate. But an 8-legged mech would require double the control. It would also require changing of rhythms. Montero seemed to have transformed into a gigantic spider in the cockpit. The wind god was still unable to open up a distance, or even to retaliate. If he were to turn around and fire a shot, he might be hit with 2 more rounds of attacks, and could also be caught up too. Bang, 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 rumble, rumble, rumble. Another round of matrix shots. This was really a detestable control. The matrix shot consumption was really huge. However, the advantage the beast-type mech had was too obvious. The speed did not decrease. Round after round of lasers surrounded the wind god. The wind god had totally become the prey. If this continues, the wind god's energy shield will not be able to hold out much longer, said Sigiali. John D. Lilick nodded. Montero's control in this SIG can be classified in the top 3. This person is like a mimic madman. He has already merged with the mech. Furthermore, this is not his scariest form yet. John D. Lilick's voice was a little low. Deep down inside, he had hoped that Saruman Snake would win. This would make his defeat less embarrassing. However, Arbiter's depth was second to none in the Milky Way alliance. The more critical the moment, the more they could feel it. Wang Zheng's idea was a good one. Zhang Shan also had the courage to fight till the very end. However, reality was cruel. It would kill dreams. It was not the first time, and would not be the last either. This was just normal. Bang, 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 bubble bubble. Zhang Shan's wind god was a live target. Yet another round of double matrix shots came. The point to this sort of attack was that as long as it was taken, it was difficult for the opponent to evade. The movements of the wind god were falling. Taking a shot was equivalent to blocking. In terms of frequency, Zhang Shan could not achieve the absolute advantage. Teleportation. His opponent had purposely calculated the consumption rate of his energy shield. The next round of attacks would kill him completely. He would not let him live. He was also exerting pressure in the details. No one knew about facing the fear and power of death better than the arbiters. Hence, they had never dreamt that anyone would dare to challenge them. Now, it was as if the arbiters had broken the seal. There was nothing that could them back, or influence them. Teleportation had saved Zhang Shan's life. But the hunting demons was closing in fast again. Both their strengths were depleting. However, one thing was for sure. Zhang Shan's strength was not as good as Montero's. Physical strength was one of the basics for arbiter warriors. It was unheard of that an arbiter's physical strength was weaker than anyone else's. Depleting each other's strength. This sort of thought should not even be entertained. Zhang Shan had attempted to open up a distance, but now it seemed like it was just a dream. It was yet another round of double matrix shots. The wind god had no choice but to use teleportation again to evade. However, this time around, the position that the wind god appeared in was not to hide, but to attack. The teleportation box sidestepped and evaded the attacks of the matrix shot. This was followed closely by teleportation, bursting out from nowhere. Having absorbed the energy of the void, the wind god attacked like a void warrior, striking straight at the hunting demon's mech. Everyone stopped breathing. A sudden counterattack. Montero gave a cold laugh. At the instant the wind god disappeared, the mech had transformed into human form. When he appeared from the void, Montero's ability X exploded. The 4 claws on the sides of the hunting demons moved in unison. Rays and rays of energy struck out. An energy web sealed off the void exit completely. Once Zhang Shan appeared, he was wrapped sturdily. The energy web had transformed into a physical web, trapping the wind god instantly. Although appearing from void could defend from many forms of attack, it was unable to defend against being trapped. In the meanwhile, the 4 large claws sprung out, stabbing towards the cockpit of the wind god. A bloody smile appeared from the corner of Montero's mouth. He was going to grind Zhang Shan into ground meat. Just when it seemed that it would pierce through, the wind god disappeared. Third teleportation. Zhang Shan had opened up a distance. When he reappeared from the void again, the binds that had bonded him had been stripped off with the power of space. However, he was not any less passive than before. He had already used teleportation thrice in the blink of an eye. More importantly, he was totally helpless against his opponent's attacks and defenses. The supporters of Saruman's snake instantly fell from heaven to almost 18 levels of hell. This was Zhang Shan's only opportunity to turn the tables, yet it was completely ineffective against his opponent. Montero's ability X was energy weaving. It was also a trait ability. Immersed in the hunting demons and control, his ability X was naturally greatly influenced by his character. It was very intricate and ever-changing. Zhang Shan's ability was very predictable. It would be very easy for Montero to target it if he wanted to. This was what was infuriating the arbiters. How could these imbeciles dare to provoke the mighty Arbiter Empire? These squirts. It was completely crushing. Though Achilles could win, it was because he was at least an Earth-rank warrior. Staking his life as bait and hiding an ultimate move, transformable gravitational force. But who the hell was Zhang Shan? Merely relying on his well-known ability to leap, how dare he be so arrogant in front of Arbiter? Zhang Shan is finished, said Jondi Lilac. There was no regret or sadness in his voice, he was merely stating a fact. Apart from being totally an open book, Zhang Shan had used 90% of his strength. Montero, maybe 60. However, that was not what Zhang Shan thought. Defeat would start from the moment you gave up. There was still a chance. Magnetic force teleportation. He needed a moment to think. His opponent definitely had a weak. The mech tripped a little. It seemed that something had gotten hold of it. Montero was not moving at all, showing a look of mockery. It was at this very moment that everyone noticed what was happening in the arena. Dear God. Bang. The wind god moved forcefully, but the mech was blocked. It was hit squarely. What was left of the energy shield blew up. Zhang Shan also felt a tremendous shock inside the cockpit. The hunting demons transformed yet again into a spider, charging towards his direction. It was at this moment that, unbeknownst to everyone, the entire arena had been shrouded in a gigantic web. Could the wind god not leap? He was just a grasshopper in front of the spider web. Energy crystallization. It was obvious that this was impossible with Montero's power alone. However, Achilles was not the only one who could make use of the energy shield wall. Ever since the Mayans started using this, everyone was reminded of what to do. It was their biggest trick from the onset. While Montero was giving chase, he had used the energy shield wall to spin a gigantic energy web. How would the wind god leap from this? Zhang Shan knew that if he were to allow Montero to close in, he would be dead beyond recognition. The wind god exerted strong control and forcefully advanced with a loud roar. However, the power of this energy web was not only resilient, it had magnetic force as well. The wind god staggered forward. Bang! A laser shot out. One of the wind god's legs was blasted off and collapsed. Blood was flowing out from Zhang Shan's mouth continuously. He struggled to keep the wind god up. The hunting demons had transformed into human form again. However, it did not move in too close, because Zhang Shan had one more use of teleportation. The void hack was undoubtedly very dangerous, and what had happened to Menlo served as a very good example. Of course, this was not important. Montero just wanted to kill. He wanted the entire world to know that provoking Arbiter meant death, and it was going to be a very painful death. Bang! A laser shot out. Zhang Shan's magnetic force flew out. But the magnetic force was blocked by the energy web. Bang! The wind god's left arm and shoulder were smashed to pieces. The wind god spun and flew out and fell to the ground. One day, dreams had to be shattered. Dead silence filled Ares Academy. Yao Island and Chen Shu clenched their teeth tightly and could not speak. Defeat did not just mean defeat. It meant death. The both of them wanted to say out loud was for Zhang Shan to admit defeat before death came calling. Live another day, fight another day. The big screens panned to Zhang Shan's cockpit. He only had one last chance to surrender. Crashing. The hunting demons transformed back into a beast form. The shoulder guns were all drawn. This was a new series of heavy firearm mech. Why would he need to hack his opponent to death? He could achieve the same outcome by blasting him. He wanted his opponent to die an ignominious death. Survival time was over. The big screens were frozen on Zhang Shan's final smile. He did not open his mouth. Rumble, rumbling. Arrays of lasers blasted out and covered the entire front. The wind god disappeared. The last teleportation. However, it would be impossible to launch an attack, because Zhongshan could not pull off such a long-distance movement. Especially with his current physical condition. Montero did not even need to launch a second wave of attack. No matter where Zhongshan was going to reappear, he would have to withstand the gunfire. Bang, 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 rumble, rumble, rumble. All of the lasers struck the energy shield wall. Waves of energy ripples appeared on the energy shield wall as a result of the strikes. Everyone was dumbfounded. Zhongshan's final teleportation actually took him outside the energy shield wall. Indeed, the organizing committee did not say that they could not appear outside. However, if he landed on the ground, the organizing committee would still probably judge that Zhongshan had lost. The wind god was like a broken kite in the sky. It did not possess the ability of flight, so it fell from the sky. Montero could not have imagined that he was able to make such a great leap. What the hell? He had actually allowed the A** shoal to get away. The hunting demons could not get out, while the wind god could not get in. However, under such circumstances, the wind god could be considered to have lost. Although it was not a surrender, it was no different from a surrender. Courage and strength were still not in proportion. The entire arena was in total silence. They were waiting for the final results to appear. In all honesty, Zhongshan's ability to react to changing situations was very strong. But the obvious difference in strength was simply too huge. This match had also signaled that the last hope of Saruman's snake had been shattered. Saruman's snake had been forced into a desperate corner. Kashan smiled slightly. Determination is a virtue. But if determination could triumph over everything, then order would not exist in this world. Achilles' victory could be considered an accidental burst of determination. But this would not be inevitable. For the current Saruman snake, a single broken string and everything would come crashing down. It was just a final breath. Everyone's eyes were on the wind god. It was just 5 meters away from the ground. However, just then, the wind god stopped in midair. A weird smile appeared on Zhongshan's face. Waves-like ripples appeared on the wind god. At the same time, the same waves of ripples also appeared on the hunting demons. A strong sign of warning hit Montero. Zhongshan was the most cunning rogue in the entire SIG. The hunting demons had obviously entered the process of teleportation. What was he up to? Spatial transposition. It suddenly hit Montero. Zhongshan was thinking of exchanging places with him. If Dendi were here, he would tell Montero that he was overthinking. Having graduated, Dendi was already the captain of Manilasuo's special forces. He was sitting in front of the live broadcast. Beside him were his team members, the mighty warriors of Manilasuo. Upon seeing the space ripples, Dendi knew that it was Zhongshan's space transfer. Although not comparable to teleportation, the speed of the transfer was rather slow, and needed mental marker. This meant that Zhongshan was using Montero as a marker. This was Zhongshan's real killer move. He had been secretly imitating Dendi. However, his move was not perfect. Transferring next to your opponent at a slow speed was courting death. In his current state, Zhongshan was really courting death. It was correct. Zhongshan was courting death. Big Brother wanted to let you understand what a man's promise meant. Zhongshan appeared behind the hunting demons. Montero stared at him savagely. This A** hole was trying his dirty tricks. How childish. Growling, shing. The hunting demons had transformed into human form again. The 4 claws that had turned into wings did a reversal lock instantly. The steel claws pierced straight into the wind god. A claw pierced right into the cockpit. Blood was splashing everywhere. The 2 mecha were intertwined and disappeared at the same time. It was then that Montero realized that he had not been transferred out. This was not an exchange of places, but they were being dragged into a crack in the space. The defense of the mecha was extraordinarily pale despite being torn apart by the power of space. Lunatic, 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 roared Montero. He did not want to die. He had never thought of dying. He would be a champion. He would be the general of the mightiest empire. I'm actually perishing together with you, you piece of crap. Without its energy shield, the rate of destruction of the wind god was even faster. With blood covering his face, Zhongshan was still smiling. Wrong. Big brother, me, is going to be the best man. Spatial teleportation. Zhang Shan did not have the strength to transport the mech out, so he only transported himself out. The lights of the night arena was in total silence. Many had thought that it was going to be an exchange of places. But now, everyone realized that it was Space Devourer. Entering space forcefully. Anyone with a slightly advanced knowledge of physics would know that subspace was a level, just like the stratosphere of the general atmosphere, it was relatively safe. However, the other locations were flooded places of death storm. There was just death, no possibility of living. Zhang Shan was perishing together with Montero. Was this a victory? Would Saruman Snake W actually go all out to such a stage? What about the clowning Zhang Shan? Dendi took a deep breath. As someone who possessed the same ability, or maybe an even more refined version, he knew all too well how fatal it was to stay forcefully in the crack of space. Thus, he had never attempted to try it. Was this really necessary? This was just a competition. Wang Zheng and the rest all held their breaths. Their minds had all gone blank. The entire arena was debating. Was this perishing together? No one had imagined that this battle of the best would be so brutal. Kashan stole a glance at Aina. Aina was a little pale. This was just the beginning. If Wang Zheng were to continue, Zhang Shan would not be the only one to die. They would not be able to take this. People were not as strong as they believed. Pain would numb a man, and he would eventually forget about love. Love has never been the most important emotions of the human race. Ares Academy was dead silent. A draw. But the price was death. Could this even be considered a victory? Yao Island could no longer hold back his tears. He was indeed not resilient enough. He was just a physicist. He could not understand the heart of a warrior. Suddenly, the entire arena was debating again. There was a ripple of space in the center of the arena. Boom. Two men fell out. Dear God. God. It was Zhang Shan and Montero. Zhang Shan was bleeding profusely from his abdominal. The hunting demons had still managed to scratch him when it tried to stab him. If it had managed to stab him, he would have been severed into half. But his current situation was no better. Zhang Shan has used his last strength to bring Montero out as well. What the hell? His compassion was aroused at the last moment. Zhang Shan was on the verge of collapsing. Montero, who was beside him, held him up. Looking towards the sky in the arena, Montero was at a loss for words. He thought that he would be dead for sure, but this fellow had saved him. The very person who had tried to kill him. Montero raised his hands. I admit defeat. Upon finishing, he lowered his head and looked at the smiling Zhang Shan. Montero did not know why he had done it. Maybe he would never know the reason. However, only a person who had faced death would truly understand how lucky it was to be alive. The ability to give another person the opportunity to live was truly a great thing. This was the first time in close to 20 years that an arbiter had voluntarily admitted to a defeat in a major competition. The person who had accomplished such a miracle was Zhang Shan. Zhang Shan win. The big screens showed the last scene of space. Just as the mecha were on the verge of destruction, Zhang Shan dragged a defeated and sluggish Montero out of the crack of space. The people in the arena stood up. The cheers went straight into the sky. Even the clouds in the sky had been shaken apart. This might not have been the most exciting battle, but it was definitely the greatest battle. Humans were human because of their kindness. This was the most glorious part of them. Let us all remember this great warrior. He's Zhang Shan from Earth. Sijiali sounded a little hoarse as well. Aslan was a humanistic empire. Faced with such a glorious moment, they lost control as well. The greatest non-Earth rank warrior is born. Such a warrior deserves our respect. Jondi Lilac gave an earnest Manalasuo military salute. In the faraway Earth, Ares Academy had gone totally crazy. Zhang Shan, Zhang Shan, Zhang Shan. Everyone was chanting his name crazily. Miss Shan, mighty. Chen Shu roared hysterically. It's Master Shan, Earth's true man. Kudos to you, mighty, roared Yao Island. Zhang Shan could not hear any of this. The emergency response team was already rushing towards him. His injuries were very serious. Montero had been holding on to Zhang Shan all this while. He had also given him first aid immediately. He had given him a shot of adrenaline-enhanced liquid. As an Arbiter warrior, this was a normal occurrence. Although the emergency response team had been very quick in their response, they still needed time as the arena was huge after all. However, the few minutes were critical. Zhang Shan had saved Montero's life. But he did not expect that in these few minutes, Montero would save his life too. Montero walked down. It was a long walk. He knew that he had done a humiliating thing. The first Arbiter to admit defeat. Aragorn patted Montero on his shoulder. You have done nothing wrong. We Arbiters haven't reached a stage where we need others' compassion to achieve victory. Dignity. Only strength could achieve this. Saruman Snake is a worthy opponent. The applause from the entire arena was resounding. It did not stop for a long time. The cheers spread from Aslan to other nations in the Milky Way alliance. No one could forget Saruman Snake, and the man named Zhang Shan. Aina looked at Kashan quietly. Even if there is only a 1% chance, if you try hard enough, you could still receive a 100% result. This is the reason why there are miracles. Kashan could never have dreamt of such an outcome. If Zhang Shan had come out on his own, what would the outcome have been? The Arbiters would have gone crazy. The hatred was not something that Saruman Snake could have endured. This was not a reasonable world. But Zhang Shan brought back Montero too. In so doing that, Zhang Shan did not die. Was this a result of a 1 in a million choice? The competition is not over yet, said Kashan coldly. I have said this before. This is just the beginning. Just as Kashan said, this was indeed just the beginning. Countless military schools everywhere in the Milky Way alliance were in the midst of fanaticism right now. This was the real battle. Saruman Snake already had a 2-0 lead against the Soulless Battle team. No one could have dreamt of this outcome. Lear was feeling like hell. This idiot. What benefits had Wang Zheng given you? Was he your father? Did you have to fight so hard? Apart from Zhang Shan, there was also Achilles. Where had the pride of the sun god gone to? When did the once prideful Achilles become Wang Zheng's lackey? This bunch of idiots. Lear was absolutely furious internally. However, he was soon drowned by the endless cheers. His fame of reaching the semi-finals was soon overshadowed by a scumbag called Zhang Shan. Captain, these guys are indeed real men. They truly deserve their title of the strongest king. It is definitely fortunate to battle with these kinds of people. The teams were all commenting. Dendi smiled. Indeed, even though he had left Elite Academy X, those last days of battle were really good. He had even made friends. Regardless of whether it was Achilles or Zhang Shan, up until now, they had fought not for themselves, but for Saruman Snake. This was a family, uniting all of their dreams. This was where Achilles could not compare with Zhang Shan. Zhang Shan was not concerned about Saruman Snake or any other things. His thinking was very simple. He was doing this for his comrade. Zhang Shan had come a long way slowly. Thoughts of giving up had crossed his mind at least 100 times. But each time, Wang Zheng was there with him. Even at times where everyone had looked down on him, Wang Zheng had always been there with him, trusting him. What was the purpose of living? It was rare for one to find a confidant in his lifetime. Once you had found one, you would not die lonely. Right from the beginning, he was ready to die. Surviving was a bonus. It was not a bad deal to have died. Man had to be capricious just once in a lifetime. Zhang Shan was this capricious man. The third battle was about to begin. This was also the main match point for Saruman Snake. This had also confirmed Jondi Lilacs' point of view. Saruman Snake wanted to beat the Soulless Battle team in one fell sweep. Even Jondi Lilac had thought that this was laughable and ridiculous thinking. However, it was now just one battle away from being a reality. The most crucial step. A legend from Arbiter. The strongest one. Aragorn. A man with an undead battle soul. Could he end all this? As soon as Wang Zheng stepped up, the entire arena went silent. The strongest king from Elite Academy X. A man who was the commander of miracles. This was the man who had created miracle after miracle. After 4 years, this man named Wang Zheng had returned to Aslan. Battle of the Kings. Wang Zheng versus Aragorn. Xiaolu, please let Zhang Shan know that I will let him step onto the champion's podium, said Wang Zheng. Everyone around the world was watching the live match at this very moment. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Wang Zheng. The world was shocked by Wang Zheng's words. Wang Zheng's voice was not loud. He had only spoken these words to Ai Xiaolu. He had merely forgotten that with the situation as such, the camera could be on him any time. These arrogant words seemed to have no regard for neither Aslan nor Atlantis. Absolutely wildly arrogant. The entire arena was in a frenzy. This was Aslan's home ground. Win the championship. The camera was now panned to Ling Feng and Dina Atlas below the stage. Lin Feng, captain of Sword Shield Rose, merely smiled without much reaction. They were just words uttered in the moment of excitement. It did not mean anything. The Prince of Atlantis only gave an acknowledgement to the world. Not much fluctuation could be seen. Captain Wang Zheng just made some arrogant remarks. Of course, we shouldn't read too much into this. This is just some form of motivation. We should give them some encouragement. The relationship between Xijiali and Wang Zheng had been rather good. She did not knock him while he was down. The Aslan people had very good temperament. Most people understood that as well. More could be said if they could pass the next round. Both warriors entered the arena and chose their mecha. Yan Xiaozu and the rest were below the stage. Boss is really good at making jokes. But he's also arrogant. But such vigor is needed. Jasper yawned. He did not understand much about mecha and battles. However, he could tell that although they had a slight advantage in this match, it had been a tough fight. It was fought with their lives. Those that had fought were the best of the best in Saruman Snake. Saruman Snake had no more backup plans. What could they use to win? Yi Zissou shook her head. Wang Zheng isn't the kind to make a joke like this. If he says he wants the championship, he will definitely get it. He has not disappointed anyone yet. Jasper was stunned. All right then. He just assumed that she was stupid. He did not see how they could possibly win. Other than Wang Zheng, Yi Zissou was the only one in this world that was certain that Wang Zheng was not just boasting. She knew Wang Zheng all too well. If it was just for Aina, Wang Zheng might not have lasted till the very end. It did not mean that Yi Zissou had no faith in Wang Zheng, but other than romantic love, Wang Zheng had too many precious ties around him. He could not allow himself to be selfish. This was also his greatest weakness. At the same time, this was also Wang Zheng's greatest strength. When Zhang Shan bet his life in Wan, there was nothing else in the world that could have stopped Wang Zheng. There was no one in this world who knew how strong Wang Zheng truly was. The final battle. Aragorn had made his choice. Fighting Spirit Mech. One of the super mecha of Arbiter. There wasn't anything special about it, but it was made for warriors who were superior by their own virtues. They needed a mech that could fully display their own powers. Some mecha were difficult to control and was a burden to the pilot. Some pilots were too strong and the mech became the burden. This series of Fighting Spirit Mech was prepared for the latter. It also suited the characters of the Arbiters. This was yet another top 10 contestant of the SIG that Wang Zheng was facing. Looking back, it was quite frightening. Wang Zheng had crushed Chichin Nakai, Gonzalez, and Jondi Lilac, 3 of the top 10. This was the 4th. He had met almost half of them already. In fact, the Hercules was not required to deal with such a mech. But it definitely needed to be the strongest and the most masculine. Wang Zheng did not hesitate. Mech choice decided. Hercules. The entire arena went on a little frenzy. Most of the audience were students from the military schools. This was definitely an explosive match. Hercules, Earth's Hercules. Some might have seen it before, but most people had not. Especially most of the Aslan audience in the arena. Their core focus was on the Aslan battle team, or Arbiter, or maybe Atlantis. As for some dark horse, it was just an impression. In such a top-level competition, facing such a super mech, the choice of this mech. Most people had never heard of this mech before. But they could read. The big screens had already displayed the manufacturer, level positioning, and the 3D performance analysis plan of the two mecha. David versus Goliath. This description was a bit of an exaggeration. But this was the feeling right now. Wang Zheng has wielded his ace killer move. Asked Xijiali. She obviously had done her research. Especially when Wang Zheng was used it during the Greatest King competition, this was really horrifying. Jondi Lilac nodded. The two aces in Wang Zheng's hands. The first is the king of the group battle, Golden Wheel Fighting God. The second is the king of individual challenge, Hercules, and this would also be the world-famous spinning spade. If there are people out there who still do not know about this, they can make references to the battles of the Greatest King. This will be the fiercest battle. Despite that, a person's thoughts and habits would not be changed by mere words. No matter how well you had performed previously, when facing Aragorn, facing the fighting spirit mech, was it not courting death by choosing the Hercules? Mars. Olivius. These pieces of trash were not worth mentioning. They could not even make it to the quarterfinals. They had been eliminated by a weaker opponent. These people should not be used as reference points. Besides, whether this mech could withstand the assaults of the fighting spirit was a concern too. However, upon closer look, the mecha that Wang Zheng was expert with were too fragile except for this. Facing the top-level warrior of Arbiter, this could turn out to be the most reliable choice. The mecha had been chosen. The pilots were suited. No changes allowed now. The Hercules versus the fighting spirit. As soon as the two mecha came on, a breath of battle spirits already filled the arena. For Wang Zheng, it was a team that they needed to defeat. It was the same for Aragorn. There was no avoiding. This was the decisive battle. The eyes of the entire world were on the two mech warriors. Aragorn had not had such a feeling since a long time ago. Wang Zheng, you and your Saruman snake battle team are worthy opponents. As such, I will put my greatest powers into the fight. Fate will determine it all. This was a tribute and a declaration of war. It was telling Wang Zheng that this was battle till death. There was no other choice. This is the toughest battle that I'm looking forward to, stated Wang Zheng. This was the highest compliment. There was indeed something leaping and burning in the eyes of the two warriors. There was a type of opponent who could offer salvation and happiness if you chanced upon them. The cost may be death. Bang! 6 strongest level warriors had encountered the explosion of spiritual power, and the momentum swept out like a hurricane. The immersed pressures shrouded the entire arena instantly. It also affected the audience outside the arena. This sort of spiritual assault could not be defended by the energy shield. A spiritual storm had been formed in the arena. Regardless of whether it was Wang Zheng or Aragorn, they were both known for their strong spiritual powers. Their levels of tenacity were unparalleled. But what would the situation be like when two such strong warriors met? The students of Elite Academy X were silent. They had thought that the battle between Wang Zheng and Mars was already a tough one, but witnessing Wang Zheng and Aragorn now, they knew better. Mars had to agree that he was not as good as Aragorn. It was not because he had become weaker. Instead, it was because the rate that Aragorn had been improving had been more exponential and furious. From certain points of view, the Warrior Soul College was right: concentration. Be the best in martial arts and be invincible in the world. There was a head-on collision of their spiritual storm. It would have been quite effective for an average warrior to use their spiritual blast to affect their opponent for a short period of time. It would be a child's play when spiritual blasting was pitted against a spiritual storm. An average warrior would have died upon entering the atmosphere of frantic power interference. However, the two of them could not keep the power from spreading outwards. The spirits of both parties were like two dragons toying with a pearl, continuously raising straight towards the skies. Neither of them revealed any signs of disadvantage or flaw. Looking at the frightening spiritual storm, Jondi Lilac could not help but lament as well. The two earlier battles totally aroused the fighting spirits of these two. Even the strongest warriors have problems maintaining their forms. Undoubtedly, both Wang Zheng and Aragorn are at their strongest right now. To be able to take part in this SIG, to be able to witness this moment, is a blessing for all the warriors. Jondi Lilac no longer felt sorry for himself or complained about his luck. There was a difference in strength. Wang Zheng, Aragorn, roar. Both mecha roared simultaneously. With forceful control, the two attacked. It was like the comets colliding. Charge. Kill. 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 In what appeared to be the blink of an eye, both mecha appeared in the center of the arena. Two titanium blades clashed. Wang. Frantic ultrasound waves and exploded instantly, causing fluctuations to the energy protection wall. Bang. The opposing power of the two mecha were transferred to the ground. The ground could not endure such force. Neither Wang Zheng nor Aragorn were power-type warriors. However, they were top-class warriors, so even power-type warriors could not compare to them. The ultimate basic combat tactic of a human warrior's basic strength was speed. These types of warriors usually had a preference for titanium blades, and not laser swords. The way to intertwine their titanium blades was a complete counterbalance of strength. This was a mutual prodding. This was a verification of the opponent. Are you worthy of battling me? Bang! Unimaginable, frantic power blasted from the two mecha. Gravel flew into the air. A very peculiar scene unfolded. The intense power field seemed to trap the gravel in a quagmire, slowly steaming and suspending, and in the next instant, it turned into powder. Roar! Both of their titanium blades staggered apart almost instantaneously. To the naked eye, it seemed that time had been slowed down. The distance had been opened up. Yet in the next second, they struck each other like lightning. Bang! 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 After 3 continuous strikes, the ground finally could not withstand the force and exploded into pieces. The energy protection wall appeared. Supporting the underground was an intricate steel structure. With that, the entire arena shook 3 times as if was an earthquake. Growling, growling, shing. The two mecha bounced back at the same time. Bang! Bang! At this moment, a special emergency meeting was called by the Milky Way Alliance at Roland Garros. Xiao Fei, who should be cheering for Wang Zheng and Aslan, was enthusiastically listed in the meeting, bearing a badge of scientific advisor. President Ryan hosted the meeting with a solemn expression. The chief of security of the Milky Way Alliance, Xi Lan, presented the severity of the current situation painfully. The Milky Way Alliance's S-level events have been endless. However, nothing as unscrupulous as this has happened before. The outcome of this is something that we can't predict. There has been mysterious missing cases from other countries when we lost contact with the Deep Space Fleet. The current numbers have not been finalized yet, but of the many missing people, some of them have very sensitive backgrounds. Lin Dong, 28 years old, from the Lin family of Aslan; Alberts, 29 years old, from the Van clan of Arbiter; Dave, 25 years old, son of the chief governor of Manilasuo. With the presentation by Xi Lan, chief of the intelligence security, picture after picture flashed across the screen in the meeting room. The identities of these people were not merely very sensitive. Now that they had disappeared together, the outcome was unimaginable. Currently, the families of these missing people have not taken much action regarding the disappearances. But we can't take it lightly. This could be an excuse to start a war. Once Xi Lan finished his words, he swept his eyes around the faces of the representatives of the alliance in the room. Not many words were required, yet everyone understood. Xi Lan had always advocated to undermine the power of the families. He hated the so-called big family, believing that the power of these families eroded and manipulated the regime. It was also undermining the power of the alliance. The regime, under the control of the families, was more susceptible to war. The Milky Way Alliance had been suppressing them all these years. To sum it up, it had not been easy to maintain the peace. Ryan nodded. Similar missing cases are not just limited to these. This is happening all around the countries in the Milky Way Alliance. Investigations have revealed that all of them have one thing in common: they were all players of Saint World. What's more, all of them had attained significant levels in the Saint World. Let's welcome space physicist Drive Xiao Fei to explain the outcome of the investigations. President Ryan. Representatives. Xiao Fei stood up from her seat. A faint glimmer of light fell on her as she took the floor. Firstly, let me explain the situation. Residual substances from space element failures were detected at the scenes of the missing cases. After investigating, we can be certain that this is a kind of ultra-sophisticated space transmission technology that originated from the virtual world of the Saint World. The room was in an uproar. How could this be possible? Was there such a possibility? This was merely a Skylink virtual game. Even if the game was somewhat special, this was space technology. Xiao Fei took out a Skylink. Sometimes, space is not as complicated and mysterious as everyone thinks. So long as certain conditions are met, it can be done. The other party's space technology is indeed more advanced than ours. But it isn't as great a difference as you are saying. The core theory is clear. It is quite similar to Space Ability X. The Saint World app is loaded on this Skylink. Just as she finished, Xiaofei stopped momentarily and launched the app. With a soft slamming sound, a white electric light suddenly appeared around the Skylink. An image similar to the image that appeared when a subspace was broken was vaguely visible through the white light. As time passed, a wormhole that could hold a mouse appeared in front of the conference table. Clamoring. Even Ryan could not suppress the voices from the representatives within a few moments. This is. Can it really open a wormhole? Where can it lead to? Can we perform a detection scan? Slam. Pa. Suddenly, an unstable energy broke through the newly opened wormhole. The space energy instantly dissipated. The door to the wormhole disappeared together with the Skylink. This is just a test conducted by me. The test proves that the disappearances are related to this app. Many countries were aware of the underground virtual world of the Saint World. Since it only spread among the elites, there was no large-scale dissemination. At the same time, many countries were interested in the practices in the app. In addition, as it aided the improvement of the elites, even though they knew that there were some dark forces behind the Saint World, many countries, including the Milky Way Alliance, chose to turn a blind eye. However, no one would admit to it at that moment. We have collected the only picture transmitted by all the missing fleets and made a comparison to the one of the area found in the Saint World. There is a 90% match. So there is definitely a connection between the two incidents, said Ryan. Ryan was the most anxious person in the entire Milky Way Alliance right now. It was fast approaching election time. Apart from all the pressure from the various major countries, these disappearances happening in the eye of the storm had definitely added fuel to the fire. If this matter was not handled well, his days were definitely numbered. How much time do you need to make a breakthrough, Professor Xiaofei? Chairman, my team and I will be able to connect to the other party's program and restart the space channel in 3 days. But I have 2 points to clarify. Firstly, I suspect that the other party has deliberately left a back door. Which means that they are not afraid that we will send a team there, or they are waiting for us to send a team over. Secondly, since we are on the defensive, we cannot be certain what the situation will be like after the transmission. Said Xiaofei. 2 options were currently being discussed. One was to send a fleet. The other was to enter from the Saint World. However, neither were great options as there were bound to be sacrifices. However, it would not be possible to ignore the situation. With such a serious situation, it was impossible for the Milky Way Alliance to just ignore it. It was crucial to find out who was behind what was happening. A shadow organization, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, or perhaps some country or the alliances of several countries. No one knew. The debates at the meeting were very intense. However, this was unavoidable as it involved the risks and gains of all the parties. The representatives were naturally arguing heatedly, especially during such sensitive times. Xiaofei hated all this. However, she could not help but compromise because it involved one of her students, Meng Tian. She could not just stand by and do nothing. She had to push the Milky Way Alliance into action no matter what. At least while she was around, the Milky Way Alliance would not just be all words and no action. There were many incidents in the Milky Way Alliance every year. Although S-level incidents had many repercussions, not all of them could be resolved. To be exact, many cases remained as case files. In the end, the option of sending a fleet was denied. The risks and the returns were completely disproportionate. The enemy could be long gone. Even if they were still around, by the time the big fleet arrived, they would have escaped. If they were to send a small fleet, the outcome would be predictable. As for sending a big fleet for attack, the implication would be massive even for the Standing Committee of the Milky Way Alliance to make the decision. Heavens know how long it would take for the big fleet to be dispatched. Under Ryan's insistence, Xiaofei's option was chosen. They would send warriors to investigate the situation before making the next move. In any case, non-action was impossible. As far as the Milky Way Alliance was concerned, They had to at least know who was controlling this new technology. Xiao Fei and a few space physicists left the meeting quietly. She had absolutely no interest in the political rivalries that were to follow. Time was limited. The technical level of the opposing organization was very strong. Their core technology had taken a completely different route to the current mainstream technology of the Milky Way Alliance. She had solved part of it, like the energy transmission. The main technology made use of the conductor technology. It also made use of light to conduct electrical energy as alternative technologies. Alternative technology for conductive energy. Most of the technological foundations of this organization were such alternative sciences. Buzz. Her skylink vibrated slightly. It was General Mengao of the Solar Systems Federation. General Meng. Opening the skylink, General Meng was visibly thinner. They had lost contact with Meng Tian and had no idea if she was dead or alive. It was a heavy blow for General Mengao. The coldness in his expression revealed his quality as a soldier. Haha, Major General Xiao Fei. If I may, I would like to know a little more about the situation. Although he was non-specific, Xiao Fei knew that General Mengao wanted to know if Meng Tian was dead or alive. If the two events were chain reactions, then the missing people had been abducted. Killing was obviously not the purpose for the abduction, which meant that there was another purpose. If that was the case, then the disappearance of the Deep Space Fleet could also be an abduction, and not annihilation. At the moment, Mengao was not a general, but a father who was looking for hope. According my speculation, the survival rates are high. I suspect that Saint World is behind the disappearance of the contact fleet. I suspect that this organization needs a large number of young people with strong battling abilities for experiments. I have no idea about the specific purpose, but they wouldn't directly threaten their lives, said Xiao Fei. Meng Tian is my student. I'll do my best. Mengao took a deep breath and nodded. Thanks. If you need any cooperation, please feel free to ask. Time flew. Ryan made unprecedented, drastic changes in the strategies of the Milky Way Alliance. The opponent was also making their move. Within a few short days, the threat of war started to spread in many countries, forcing the Milky Way Alliance's fleet to be stationed at different locations to enforce peacekeeping. However, Ryan had a strange feeling. The opponent's outbreak, although it brought great conflicts and threats, also exposed the powers of the organization. Furthermore, many had operated in secret for hundreds of years or more. Losing these powers merely to keep the Milky Way Alliance in a short period of chaos. Was there a deeper plan? Or were there other motives? Intelligence. That was the foundation of everything. It was up to Xiao Fei now to see if she could find a breakthrough and enter the opponent's territory. Only then could they gather intelligence that could help them make decisions. Laboratory. Drive Xiao Fei, please take a nap. We will watch over the test results. Several space physicists were watching Xiao Fei with concern. She had not slept in 3 days and 2 nights. Initially, they had been somewhat unconvinced of her ability. After all, she was so young. However, over the past few days, they had clearly appreciated her ability. She opened another bottle of protein energy drink. Xiao Fei was forcing her brain to function. It did not mean that she did not want to sleep, but the situation was getting more urgent. Buzz. Her skylink vibrated. Representative Yi Bingwen was calling. Xiao Fei freshened up her appearance a little and answered the call. Representative Yi. Drive Xiao Fei, what's the situation now? Yi Bingwen was under intense pressure too, especially since there were some accusations against co-organization recently. Although they had turned out to be false, the pressure was real. Not everyone was able to consider the big picture. Some people might even cooperate with people that they should not in order to gain power. We have made some headway. But we still need some time before making a direct transfer into it. Xiao Fei shook her head. The other party's blockade method was space folding technology. In the physics world, this had been just a theory. This was equivalent to artificially creating a small dimension world. In order to enter it, they needed to possess the technology to break the barriers of time and space of the world. What's your headway? I have found a backdoor loophole. We could use reverse push. That means we use the means of their abduction as a method to transmit. However, there is a limit to the number of people transmitted each time. Furthermore, once the other party finds out about the loophole, it won't take them long to patch it. We also can't rule out the fact that this could be a loophole left on purpose for us to find. This could be a trap. Regardless of whether this is a trap or not, we have to take action. Yes, we need to fight. Xiao Fei's eyes were full of determination. In the 6 Knights of the Light Arena, Wang Zheng and Aragorn were warriors with very similar styles in this major competition. Extremely strong physical combat and tenacity, strong spiritual power, fierce combat rhythm, and like to control. When they collided, they were fighting for control. After a round of battle, they both knew that their opponent could not be easily suppressed. In the earlier battles, regardless of whether it was Wang Zheng or Aragorn, they could control the situation. They could set their opponent up to use their killer moves and then eliminate them easily. This was the crushing effect because of their personal strength. Likewise, they also needed to accumulate more battle experience. Every person with great ability would had acquired a unique understanding. Furthermore, a stronger warrior needed not the opponent's techniques, but the comprehension resonance of the opponent's techniques. Once this resonance reached a certain level, it would push one for a breakthrough from the bottleneck. This was what Wang Zheng and Aragorn were doing. Regardless of the means they had used to reach this level, the two of them were definitely two of the best of the younger generation, standing on the top of the pyramid in this SIG and even the Milky Way alliance. Aragorn's spiritual power was locked onto Wang Zheng. Segregation. This was the ability of a top warrior. They could feel the distribution of the opponent's life and spiritual energies. They could also analyze each other's latent weaknesses based on their experience. Similarly, Wang Zheng was using the same power on Aragorn. Both of them had renewed senses almost simultaneously. All these times, neither had ever met anyone whom they could use such power against. While it seemed like a basic ability that had no effect on life or death, it allowed them to penetrate the latent powers of their opponent during battle. The audience watched them in silence. They could feel the suppression of spirits. Neither one was moving. Moments later, discussion started, spreading among the audience. What were the two of them up to? In the contestants' corner, unbeknownst to them, Lin Feng and Dina Atlas were seated together. In this SIG, if ever 4 people could sit together without causing an issue, it would be the 2 in the arena and the 2 here. Regardless of whether they were opponents, friends, or foes, there was an inner acknowledgement of their abilities. This person was worthy of battling with me. Although Lear had sent out an invitation, he had been rejected by the Aslan people. Of course, the reason had been diplomatic. However, in reality, it was an indication that he was not worthy. Lear smiled and sat back. He very much wanted to be close to Lin Feng and Atlas and promote his own strengths. Lin Feng, of course, knew what the two of them were up to. However, at this distance, it was not easy to use their segregation. If my guess is correct, Aragorn should be at Earth rank level 3. Wang Zheng doesn't seem to be there yet, said Lin Feng. This could be a little fatal. Dina Atlas gave a little smile. He's probably not there yet, but it may not necessarily be fatal. Oh, I heard that you Atlanteans are very fond of him. This is very strange. Why? With Lin Feng's status and situation, it was natural for him to ask such a question. Both he and Dina were the future key figures of the 2 great empires. Dina Atlas smiled. Using the words of humans, maybe it is fate. Lin Feng smiled. He was undecided. He knew that the other party was toying with him, but he did not dig deeper. The spiritual powers of the 2 were segregating each other simultaneously. It was also interfering with each other at the same time. They were not battling at their best yet. In the next moment, following a loud bang, both mecha dispatched at the same time. Under the stimuli of the opponent, the primordial regression technique was moving very swiftly. Wang Zheng could feel the surging power. It was the same for Aragorn's Battle Souls mantra. The essence of the Battle Souls mantra was based on refining the soul, gradually tempering it into a battle soul. The physical body was just a vassal that would become an undying battle soul. However, this was the ultimate goal. Refining the body was a necessity to achieve this goal. While advancing, the Hercules instantly combusted into flames. Fire of the 5 elements. On the other side, the fighting spirit mech also combusted into flames simultaneously. However, the straight line distance between the two was a huge pit. If they charged in this direction, they would fall into it. The fighting spirit's titanium blade suddenly rotated 3 times. The flames also rotated. 2 seconds later, the power of the flames in the arena was gathered together by the 2 Earth rank warriors. In the blink of an eye, the arena turned into a furnace. Other fire element warriors could not control their flames once their fire powers were unleashed. But these two would continuously absorb and control the flames around their mecha in order to achieve maximum killing power. However, there was no stopping the heat. Suddenly, Aragorn's titanium blade struck. With a roar, a ray of rotating fire waves charged rapidly towards Wang Zheng. Lai Xin felt somewhat relieved. At this level, it indicated that the level was not. The next moment, Lai Xin's expression changed. That fire waves left the titanium blade and rotated 3 times, then suddenly turned into azure blue, roaring and charging towards Wang Zheng. Suddenly, Lai Xin understood the difference. The 2 people on the stage were super warriors. Their actions could not be speculated by ordinary people. Blue flames, Lai Xin could produce these 2. But only with all her strength, and it was her killer move. However, for Aragorn, this was just a normal attack. The killing power of the blue flames was on a totally different level than ordinary flames. Do not withstand it head-on. Although Wang Zheng was skilled in the 5 elements, the members of Saruman's snake knew that his characteristic was synthesizing. His practice in a single aspect was not in depth. Wang Zheng did not evade, nor synthesize. The titanium blade flashed out 3 times lightning fast. Devoid of any fancy tricks, the titanium blade struck 3 times. Then the strangest situation happened. The last strike was faster than the one before. Just when it seemed they would be colliding with the blue flames, the 3 blades merged and became one. Triassic Dragon Salamander. An even deeper red. The overlapping power created when the 3 blades merged together was the strongest. Wang Zheng was not only skilled in compound ability, his compounding of individual elements was even stronger. Bang! The blue flames and the deeper red flames intertwined, transforming into flames that rocketed into the sky. Furthermore, the 2 mecha did not stop. Kill! The 2 mecha rose up simultaneously. The titanium blades pulled apart. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the 2 mecha. What were the 2 of them up to? As they rose, the 2 mecha lit up in electro-optic lights. Light speed acceleration. Boom, boom, boom. The 2 mecha suddenly went into light speed. Like lightning, the 2 titanium blades struck each other. Not only did the 2 mecha not fall, they rose up even higher. The blazing lightning blasted on the 2 mech warriors, electro-optic lights blasting. At the same time, dark clouds had started to agglomerate above the 2 since an unknown time. The sky had turned dark. Only continuous sounds could be heard in the midst of the electro-optic lights. The naked eye could no longer follow such lightning-fast attacks. Bang! Almost simultaneously, the 2 mecha stopped moving. The titanium blades were locked firmly together. The huge spiritual force field had formed a distinctive confrontation. The 2 mecha were totally set in the air by this huge force field. Bang! Attracted by the electro-optic power disseminated by the 2 mecha, a gigantic lightning bolt flashed from the sky. But it split just as it was falling, hitting both mech warriors. Both their titanium blades shone with white, shining lights. Almost simultaneously, Wang Zheng and Aragorn's pupils disappeared. The titanium blades struck each other at the speed of light. Surging, the 2 titanium blades blasted directly, and disappeared into the light. Everyone thought that the 2 would stop there. But clearly everyone was wrong. The 2 mecha were shrouded in a strange radiance at the same time. Obviously, it was the characteristics of the G material after being stimulated. But the scale was rather big. Leaning landslide. Weapons were not very important for Wang Zheng. The battling power of the Hercules was still amazing even after losing the titanium blade. This leaning landslide had also been forged in fire, cutting right in. Moves need not be new, just useful. However, Wang Zheng had miscalculated this time. The fighting spirit's speed suddenly accelerated. Keeping close to the ground, the direct blast of the spiraling wind swept towards the legs of the Hercules. The leaning landslide attack seemed to be invincible. However, in actual fact, the attack was still concentrated in the wind. Furthermore, since the attack was swift and the center of gravity was low, no one had ever tried to resist, evade, or counterattack. However, this time, he had encountered a super warrior from Arbiter. Wang Jung needed to stop his leaning landslide. It could not reach the fighting spirit. Aragorn had obviously made a prejudgment, and was able to totally target Wang Jung's move in one strike. The Hercules was forced to bounce up and accelerate at high speed as well. The performance of this mech was average, but its tenacity was very strong. Thus, it was suitable for a super warrior to unleash his performance. However, the mech lacked agility. Wang Jung's control could crush his opponent. However, this time his opponent was Aragorn. This meant that Wang Jung's reaction was not fast enough. The Hercules managed to evade a fatal sweep. But the warning sign appeared instantly. Suddenly, the fighting spirit supported itself on the ground with its hands, and, like a cannonball, the mech charged towards the Hercules. Let it be known that the distance between the two was less than a meter apart. Boom, boom, boom. Like a drilling cannon, the fight spirit attacked the Hercules with a chain of super kicks. The power of vigorous metal. From the first strike, Wang Jung knew that he would not be able to evade. Although his moves were sharp and seemingly flawless, under continuous attacks, flaws were bound to appear. Of course, his opponent had to have the ability to keep up as well. Aragorn was one of them. Boom, 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 boom. In the defensive, the Hercules used both its arms and legs, resisting the attacks of the fighting spirit, but the fighting spirit was using its full strength. This move, the drilling cannon, was completed yet again. The power of vigorous metal frantically penetrated into Wang Jung's body. Fire and wood, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But his opponent's comprehension of the metal element was obviously deeper than his. If he continued to allow the fighting spirit to kick him as such, it would be disastrous. Suddenly, a chill blasted directly from the Hercules. With no sign or warning, it suddenly froze. The Hercules had frozen himself. The entire Hercules had become a giant ice sculpture. Banging sounds rang as the fighting spirit kicked the solid ice. Just then, the sky returned to normal. A ray of sunlight shone down, appearing oddly bright. In the next moment, the flames of the fighting spirit rose to the sky. But a second later, the ice seal disappeared from the seemingly completely sealed and self-defeating Hercules. It seemed as if everything had been an illusion. Even with Aragorn's ability, he also needed a breather from the continuous forceful attacks and interchanging ability X's. Thus, Wang Jung captured this opportunity. The Hercules' right fist was pulled back all the way. Bang! The fighting spirit fell to the ground like a meteorite. A loud burst. The entire energy shield wall of the shaft vibrated, and gravel was sent flying in the air. Everyone in the Night of the Lights arena was dumbfounded and speechless. Were these two even human? Jungyang was still feeling rather regretful for not advancing to the semifinals. He stood a good chance. But in the end, he fell short due to a lack of a final effort. He was so distraught by the double-consuming tactics of Lear and Luo Fei. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt freed. This was truly the level worthy of the semifinals. Although Lear had reached the semifinals, it might not be a lucky thing. Lin Feng was unlikely to cut him any slack battling at the home ground. He understood the power of ice very well, like the back of his hand in fact. But Wang Jung's comprehension of ice was actually deeper than his. This is a marvelous battle. It seems that both Wang Jung and Aragorn are warriors of the 5 elements. This interchanging of ability X and combination of physical techniques are absolutely breathtaking. But what I don't understand is, why doesn't Wang Jung freeze his opponent? Asked CG Ali. This was what many were wondering too. Jondi Lilac was still savoring the moment. He gave a smile after hearing those words. This is the difference between the coagulation and releasing of the ability X. Wang Jung can't freeze his opponent instantly because it takes time and a lot of ability X. It is also dependent on the resistance of the opponent. But Wang Jung is using coagulation. This is an entirely different concept. This sort of freezing effect is enough to defend against Aragorn's subsequent attacks. The key to this is his instant contact. This clearly shows that his comprehension of ice is in another realm. His comprehension about the power of ice is also the deepest amongst those who have battled thus far. Almost at the same moment, the camera was penned to Ai Jungyang from the Hail Cloud Alliance. Ai Jungyang nodded his head silently. It was not very difficult to apply instant freezing on his opponent or himself. But to be able to unfreeze in an instant meant that the control and the degree of integration of the power of ice had reached an unimaginable level. He had tried using it but was far from being able to apply it in a real battle. This sort of person was truly frightening. Wang Zheng did not pursue an attack. The strike earlier seemed bold and powerful, but Aragorn had managed to defend against it completely. His mighty earth power was truly skillful. However, at their levels, 5 elements against 5 elements, each having his own strengths, it would require at least a couple of hours before a breakthrough could be achieved. Aragorn's fighting spirit jumped out from the pit. The mech landed on the ground. Everyone knew instantly that there was not much damage. Aragorn was trying to lure Wang Zheng into a pursue and attack. With his earth power, it would have definitely brought a surprise for Wang Zheng. Unfortunately, Wang Zheng did not fall for the trap. Wang Zheng was weak in his powers of earth and metal. But for ice, wind, and fire, his comprehension was deeper than Aragorn's. Each had their advantages and disadvantages. They were definitely evenly matched. As for physical combat, this was the first time anyone was able to take on his drilling cannon. This was after he had watched Wang Zheng compete. He understood Wang Zheng's tactics. He knew when Wang Zheng would use the leaning landslide, so he had made the first move. Making the first move in a battle between the masters was actually an advantage in itself. Yet the result in the end had been disappointing. Aragorn was most confident about this physical combat, having gained the combat experience from the baptism from fire. This sort of extemporaneous change was unparalleled. However, he felt the same sort of quality from Wang Zheng. Earth. It was a magical thing. He had thought that he would only experience this when he battled Lin Feng. Yet now, this experience had occurred in the semifinals. The fighting spirit suddenly shook. The 5 elements of ability X, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, emerged continuously from the mech. Although the abilities were changing, the earlier power did not disappear. In a mere few seconds, 5 gigantic powers were formed and hovered in the sky. Powers of the 5 elements. 5 different powers were circulating around the fighting spirit, spinning faster. Finally, using the G material as the medium, they fused together. In an instant, the fighting spirit was covered in a layer of pale golden light. Power of the 5 elements. With the blessing of the 5 elements, his physical combat was invincible. Power of the 5 elements. The fighting spirit was like a wild beast at this moment. The entire mech was covered in a thick layer of power. But to the audience, it was just a feeling. Visually, it was just an additional layer of golden light. However, everyone felt the suffocating pressure, similar to the moment before someone used a weapon that had never been used before. The undead Shira flow. The entire arena was enveloped under Aragorn's pressure. The warriors who were present in the arena were weak from their knees from such pressure. With the aid of the 5 elements, any ordinary strike could be devastating. Judging from the earlier fusion, Aragorn was very skillful in his control. Let me explain to everyone. There are very few who possess the ability X for the 5 elements. Jondi Lilac was aware of this fact. Wang Zheng had been proud of his power of the 5 elements and physical combat. Yet now it seemed that Aragorn was just as skillful in his power of the 5 elements and physical combat. This was indeed going to be an interesting battle. Wang Zheng was not surprised. The more powerful you were, the clearer you were about the birth and use of the 5 elements. Only those who had enough insight and tenacity would dare to venture into the power of the 5 elements. Thus, he was not the only one who possessed such ability. However, he feared no one. The appearance of the Hercules was not as glamorous as the fighting spirit. However, Wang Zheng's strikes were even more amazing than Aragorn's. The 5 elements did not overlap but appeared simultaneously. Buzz. Resonance of the 5 elements. Wang Zheng knew that the primordial regression technique was not unique. He had realized that Lin Feng, Aragorn, and the rest possessed similar powers. However, in terms of the balance of the 5 elements, the primordial regression technique was still the strongest. The 5 elements quickly attained balance and golden light enveloped the Hercules. Dharma primordial regression stream. This move had totally silenced the entire arena. But everywhere else outside of Aslan, it was a racket. After all, the perceptions were different for everyone. Wang Zheng's primordial regression of the 5 elements was visibly more sophisticated than Aragorn's. At the same time, in the control room, Major General Marshall had ordered that a second energy shield wall be activated, forming a second layer of protection for the arena. This was the first time that an energy shield wall was up even before the two fighters had even made their next move. He was not an uninformed person. Based on the battle power of those two, it would be too late to prepare for any defense once the powers were leaked. The imposing manner of the two golden warriors had reached the apex. Both the eyes of Wang Zheng and Aragorn were shining with golden lights. Their will to battle was burning fiercely. Charged. Kill. 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 Both mecha flew up immediately. Take note. It was not suspending. Earth-rank warriors relied on their strong spiritual force and some form of gravitational force or control force of ability X to achieve this. However, this sort of suspension was not very useful except for showing off. If the rate of agility was not insufficient, they would be live targets in the air. But these two. With the 5 elements in balance, levitation could be innately obtained. In the blink of an eye, the two mecha appeared in the center of the arena. Simultaneously, both threw a punch. Bang! Buzz! Golden light exploded. At the same time, a wave of power ripples blasted immediately. It was as horrifying as the collision of the lasers of battle fleets. When the power ripples hit the energy shield wall, violent collisions occurred immediately. Only in the next second did roars similar to that of thunder ring in the ears of everyone. Undead Shira streams. Stacking punch. A punch from the fighting spirit. The so-called stacking punch was derived from the deviation of stacking force, which was basically high-velocity stacking force, and exerting the deadliest killing force. The stacking punch was based on the combination of internal strength and external attacking frequency to achieve a 100% kill rate with every single punch. It was thus strong and ferocious. Naturally, Wang Zheng would not evade. The stacking force followed immediately. Wang Zheng was blameless since the stacking force was the only thing he knew. Aragorn, on the other hand, had more than 10 masters, and each one of them was an expert in physical combat. Bang! Just one punch, and the difference between the stacking force and the stacking punch was already evident. When Aragorn threw his second punch, Wang Zheng had just released his first. Hence, this was Aragorn's control. Double punches were thrown at the same time. Both arms threw stacking punches simultaneously, yet the rhythm was completely different. This was the left and right mutual combating rhythmic variation. Instantly, the Hercules was completely on the defensive. As there was no advantage in the performance of the mech, Wang Zheng had absolutely no opportunity for counterattack. The golden fighting spirits surrounded Wang Zheng's Hercules and attacked frantically. Every attack created cracks in the energy ripples. The Hercules was in total defense mode. However, Wang Zheng could not retreat. If he did, he would leave an opening, and that would mean certain death. Wang Zheng had been forced back to the energy shield wall. Dead end. Suddenly, the fighting spirit kicked out and swept Wang Zheng aside. This had been an accumulated advantage. There was no way the fighting spirit would let it go. The stacking punch was struck with full force. In nanoseconds, the Hercules made a strange move. This had always been Wang Zheng's killer move, Plum Blossom Steps. The fighting spirit's punch came out empty and hit straight at the energy protection wall. Bang! Everyone was dumbfounded. The energy shield wall that claimed to be able to withstand the lasers of battleships was punched through. The force of the golden punch blasted straight at the second energy shield wall. At the same time, Wang Zheng's single strike of the leaning landslide sent the fighting spirit flying. A distance opened up between the two mecha. The energy level of the energy shield wall had also fully charged up instantly. The fighting spirit did not sustain any damage after pushing through. The effects of the 5 elements stimulated by the G material was top-notch. This had already been proven by the Arbiter Science Academy. In fact, the super warriors in Arbiter were all moving towards attaining the power of the five elements. Only the power of the five elements was able to achieve the effects of both offense and defense. Although it was very tough to learn in the early stages, once a breakthrough was achieved, it would be impossible for the other warriors to match up. For the highly demanding arbiters, they would naturally not cower. Such a basic technique of Wang Zheng could not constitute any harm. Aragorn frowned. The laser sword of the fighting spirit was sheathed. Wang Zheng, you can't possibly beat me this way. Stop considering the next battles. Aragorn was one of the parties involved. Having witnessed everything in the qualifying rounds, while this madman was facing him now, he was still thinking about the future. Wang Zheng did not deny his intention when it was laid bare. He needed his brothers to help him fight this battle, because he could only rely on himself to battle against his opponents in the semifinals and finals. It would then truly be a battle for life or death. After these few rounds of battles, he had discovered that the moves that he had made were ineffective. In order to face his future opponents, the more moves he could withhold, the better it would be. He had hoped that he could uncover some of his opponent's flaws as they battled. However, the fact was, Aragorn had uncovered his flaws instead. They were evenly matched in terms of real battle. But Aragorn had more techniques. He used to think that Bonehead was too crazy. The brutal training sessions seemed to be useless. However, now he felt that they were far from enough. Furthermore, Aragorn had already discerned his intentions. There was no retreat. The Hercules shovel popped out. Combination. Wang Zheng knew that it was time for the decisive battle. The rotating shovel was always successful. In the hands of the greatest king, it was even more outstanding. Mars and the rest were brought down by it. However, would it still be able to create a miracle against Aragorn?